Broadcasting live from the Capitol OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning. Welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. Seth Merrow in the studio. As always, thanks for joining us. Another fun Saturday ahead. Maryland Millions Day down at Laurel. We'll talk a little bit about that later on with our friend JohnPiassek from the Maryland Horse Breeders Association. Go over some of the nice stakes on our stakes-laden card down in Maryland today. But as usual during the fall meet, a nice day at Keeneland as well. And who better to reach out to than our friend Jeremy Plonk? You can find his selections on the Keeneland website every day. So I thought we'd talk the QE2, maybe 2 or 3 other races as well. Jeremy, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. This is one of my absolute favorite days of the year on the calendar. So I'm flattered that you brought me on today because I grew up right on the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. I went to Pimlico and Laurel during the day. We went to Charlestown at night. It's West Virginia Breeders' Classics. It's Maryland Million and Keeneland Fall Meet with the QE2. I mean, this is like, for me, this is like almost about the ultimate 3. Of course, I spent a lot of years at Remington Park as well. They'll have their Classics night next week, but this is as good as it gets for a guy who grew up on Mid-Atlantic racing and then as an adult got into Keeneland so intense as I have over the last 15 years. So this is a really fun day, and my Oklahoma Sooners are off this week, so I don't even have a football to track.
That's right. You don't have to sweat out the football side of things. My Syracuse, the Orangemen had a great start to the season, and then as a Jets fan, it was like 4 minutes into the season. Come on, really?
Yeah, right. Yeah, tough year to be a Jets fan.
So when I can not think about football, that's fine. But as always, top of the interview, I'd like to let you tout a little bit what's going on with horseplayernow.com. And I've mentioned it a couple times already as I kind of promoted the show during our handicapping report. You've got a Substack page now as well. So talk a little bit about that and what's offered.
Yeah, Substack is an individual publishing platform where you can send directly by email to folks who are just part of your email subscriber list. So if you go to Jeremy Plonk, all one word, Jeremy Plonk, no space, .substack.com, you can sign up for the free daily email newsletter. I'll send you all my Keeneland information today. I put out a pick 4 ticket for the big sequence at the end of the card, and also link you to my stuff at Keeneland.com through that. It's the day and age of the internet where people aren't necessarily going to websites for specific things, right? And you know this from your Equidaily days for sure. People want to find information as easy as they can. So we're trying to get it in people's inbox and go where they are instead of them having to come to us. So, sign up for that Substack. It's a new thing that we're doing and really has a strong, a really strong performance. About 60% open rate, which is just phenomenal. You know, when you send an email out, you're open to get 10, 20% open rate. 60% of the people who are getting the Substack every day are opening it and checking it out. So that tells you that you have an engaged audience, and Substack's really been a nice boost for us. So it's free. There's no charge. And we'll have picks not only during the Keeneland meet, but throughout the course of the calendar year, a race of the week, and things like that.
Excellent. And again, I've mentioned you can go to the Keeneland website, find your selections and analysis on there every race day as well. Before we get into today, I wanted to hit on a topic because we have you on the beginning of the year with Countdown to the Crown. So we're talking 3-year-olds for much of the early portion of the year. And I just wanted to get your take because I've talked about it now with a few people over the past month or so. The final Breeders' Cup Classic rankings came out the other day. Arcangelo is on top. I had the guys in the control room pull up the stretch run to the Traverse. I have no argument. Arcangelo, this was a nice performance off of this at the top of the 3-year-old class. But boy, that Arcangelo is at the top of the Breeders' Cup Classic rankings. Go Rocket Ride second, Arabian Night third. White Barrio off the performance up at Saratoga is fourth. But again, I have no problem with Arcangelo as a talented horse. But Peter Pan, Belmont, Traverse, triple victories, you don't necessarily think he's the best horse this year, but he's the top of the Breeders' Cup Classic rankings. Give me your thoughts about that.
Yeah, well, look, it's a year where we started out with Art Collector winning the Pegasus World Cup. He's no longer, in the discussion at all and finished. And there just wasn't a carryover horse in the older ranks that, was able to ascend in the Classic division. You look at Cody's Wish, who turned out to be a miler. They tried to go longer at the Whitney. That didn't work. Square peg, round hole. So there really isn't anyone else. It's got to be the 3-year-olds. Yeah. And Arcangelo's been the best of the 3-year-olds because he's got 2 Grade 1 wins. He's the only 3-year-old with 2 Grade 1 wins this year. He's pretty much got the 3-year-old championship locked up unless something unforeseen happens in the Breeders' Cup Classic. You could see maybe Arabian Lion if he were able to win the Breeders' Cup Classic after winning the Pacific Classic. Maybe somebody could make that argument. Beating older horses twice in Grade 1 company trumps 2 wins in the Belmont and the Triple Crown. But there's not a lot of scenarios out there where somebody upends him for the 3-year-old title, and he's got a major chance at Horse of the Year because he looks like the favorite for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Hopefully he continues to train well. Jenna sent him out west early to get acclimated with the confines out there at Santa Anita, so he's going to be at home by the time they get there around to the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yeah, it's been funny the last few weeks because the whole 3-year-old season we were kind of like, man, there's no cream rising to the top here. But then Arcangelo with the Travers victory seemed to step forward, as you say. Arabian Night with the Pacific Classic victory is sitting on the verge of something maybe. But it doesn't seem like a super strong 3-year-old class. Maybe as the year progresses, and certainly the Breeders' Cup, it becomes more interesting. But I think it's just kind of an indictment, maybe the older division this year too. Really,
it is. If White Barrios the best of the older horses, we know he's nice. He had a good Met mile. He looked good in the Whitney, but a 1.25 miles is a different ballgame from those 1.5 miles. So if he's, if you want to tell me he's the horse to beat in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, I'll buy it. But in the Classic at a 1.25 miles, that's a big question. I think I said Arabian Lion and not Arabian Night. I've been confusing those 2 horses since they debuted. So, you fixed me on that. Yeah, Arabian Night, of course. He's the one who won the Pacific Classic. He could make a case for Horse of the Year if he and champion 3-year-old if he were to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. That's how kind of tenuous the Horse of the Year balloting would be right now at this point.
Yeah, no, it was intriguing when that list, the final list came out the other day. There's 2 3-year-olds sitting right up there, 1-2. Go Rocket Ride, who I don't think anybody is mistaking for an all-time great, sitting in number 2. So It'll be fun. It certainly makes the weekend interesting. All right, speaking of an interesting weekend, again, folks can find your selections for Keeneland every racing day on their website. You've been following the meet right along since they kicked off a week and a half or so ago, a couple of weeks, whatever. But the feature today, the 9th, it is the QE2 for the 3-year-old fillies going 1 mile and an 1/8. I pulled up a replay here going back to the Saratoga Oaks Invitational. It'll be Elusive Princess getting it done here. Now in the barn of Arnaud Delacour. I put this one on top off of that victory. I thought Lindy was interesting for Brendan Walsh, Papilio for Mark Cassie, Maj for Saeed Bin Sior, coming off a Group 1 over in Europe, but in May is intriguing as well. What are your thoughts on the QE2?
Well, this looked like a Breeders' Cup race. There is no Breeders' Cup 3-year-old filly stakes, right? You have to go against olders in the filly and mare turf, or you go against boys in the mile or the turf itself. But this is a 3-year-old filly race that looks a lot like a Breeders' Cup race because of the quality of the Europeans. What I ended up doing was handicapping this race like it was a Breeders' Cup race because there's so many good Europeans in here that are hard to separate. The good thing about Elusive Princess, as you mentioned, is she's got a win here in the U.S. already. So we know she can handle the going here in America. The race at Saratoga should play pretty similar to what we see at Keeneland. There was some overnight rain. The turf course will have a little give to it. We know that turf course at Saratoga had give to it all season long. And the Europeans should run well on a softer going. It's not going to be soft at Keeneland today. It's already stopped raining, and the conditions will be fine for the race. But it'll probably be a good turf course that has a little bit of give to it. But there are so many Europeans, like we're talking about with the Breeders' Cup race, that you've got to be able to either separate one if you find is exceptional or go with what you know. And I ended up just going with what I know here because Maj is so good. Alonda Queen is good. Lindy is really good. Sounds of Heaven has potential. Elusive Princess we know is good. These are like 1,000 guineas horses, right? Maj won the English 1,000 guineas at Newmarket. Alonda Queen was in the French 1,000 guineas and ran really well. These are like exceptional horses that French Oaks fillies like Elusive Princess and Company. I can't separate them. So what I did was I just went with what I'm familiar with. I went back and looked at the stats and trends of this race, the Queen Elizabeth II Cup, and horses with speed have done exceptionally well in this race. Over the last 9 years, nobody's closed them anywhere from more than 3 lengths off the pace, and the average winner's only been 3/4 of a length off the lead after the opening half mile. So I'm trying to find a horse who has a little bit of speed in this race. Chad Brown's won it 5 times in the last 17 years, and I think we can get a price on his horse in here. So I just went with Chad and Irad at 20-1 in the morning line because this is what I know. These two guys are exceptional with the Philly turf races, and Prerequisite's going to be my top pick in here. She almost wired the Belmont Oaks Invitational at 1.25 miles. Last time out at Saratoga from a wide draw, kind of an indecisive ride. She never got into the race, ran fifth all the way around. I think from a wide draw here, they're going to be aggressive. I don't think there's a ton of early pace in here. Heavenly Sunday to her inside's got a little bit of speed. Maybe she sits second and is right in the race all the way. And 20-1 on Chad and Irad. That's why I ended up going with Prerequisite because I'm looking for a horse near the pace in here. The New York alumni, horses coming out of Saratoga, Belmont, Aqueduct, have been exceptional in this race over the years in the QE2. Now, this is a much better European cast than we're used to seeing in this race. Deeper. We've always had 1, maybe 2 Euros come over for this race, but not the depth of the Europeans. So maybe the trends are completely out the window here because this race doesn't look like the past one. But again, in a race where I can't figure out the Europeans, they're all very good and competitive. I just went with what I know, familiarity.
And I like it because it happens not infrequently that you get a price on a Chad Irad horse, and you're kind of how? And this one, $40. If you look up at the board afterwards, it's $40. Chad and Irad, how do we let that one get away? So I like it.
Right.
I like the thinking. All right, opener today at Keeneland. Conditional claimers going about 7 furlongs. I put Cannavale on top. Talked about that on the handicapping show earlier, coming in off a nice maiden victory over at Horseshoe Indy. I don't think it's a big jump. Maiden claimer into an N2L condition. Creative Way is interesting to me. Vale at a price, the number 9, also a little bit intriguing. But what did you see in the opener today at Keeneland?
I'm going with a horse who's got an Indy maiden win as well, and that's Block, who 2 starts back won a maiden special at Horseshoe Indianapolis. I like in non-winners the 2 races, and this goes across your OTB channel, whether you're talking Finger Lakes or Saratoga or Keeneland. In a non-winners of 2 lifetime, give me the horse who's got the best maiden win on paper, right? They've all got 1 career victory. Who's got the best one? I think that Horseshoe Indianapolis maiden special and open company by Block is the best maiden win on paper. Bucktown's won a race at Tampa in maiden special weight company, and we also have a horse in here with the maiden special weight win at Turfway, Libertango. I think those are the 3 best maiden races in the field among the victories, and I think the one at Indy's a little bit better than the others. And you get some pedigree here. Block is by Union Rag. The Union Rag horses run really well on the Keeneland main track, excellent statistically. So I think this is a potential horse for course who hasn't run here yet. And Block has a bullet workout in Lexington at the Thoroughbred Center for this race. So I'm going with Block on the outside at a nice price in the opener. I think it's a pretty chalky card kind of in the secondary races in the early pick 5, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. I think you could see some shorter prices in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th races. So if you're going to make some hay early in the day at Keeneland, the first race looks like an opportunity to do that.
I like it. 12-1 on the morning line. Raylu on board, blocked in the opener. Wrapping up the early pick 5, race number 5, maiden specials vying for $100,000, scheduled on the grass at 1.8 miles. I went with King's Secret. I thought the Brendan Walsh runner. I went back to the race at Saratoga, and I kind of drew a line through the Kentucky Downs try. I thought the Saratoga race was maybe more indicative of what we'll get this afternoon. So I went with a little bit of a price. I had it 8, 9, 2, and 3. What did you see in race 5?
Yeah, I've got King's Secret in my top 3 as well. I love the pedigree by Kingman. This is 1.1 miles on the turf, and the longer they go on the grass, the more I'm looking for class. You know, I think the class shines through. You got the Kingman on top out of a Chamardale mare, French Derby winner on the bottom side is the Damsire. This horse should run well longer. Like you said, the Kentucky Downs race was only a mile, too. So draw a line through that one. Brendan Walsh, who's been hot, he had a winner yesterday on the card. He gets blinkers on here. I think King's Secret is a big-time player in here. I love that pedigree. And I like the pedigree a lot with number 2, Cat Mint. This one's by Kitten's Joy out of Antino. Antino, really good filly back in the day for Judmont. She won the Just a Game in New York, third in the Diana up there at Saratoga. She was a really high-class mare, and I think this horse is going to run exceptionally well over the 1 1/8. A little give in the ground won't hurt today. Florent Giroux rides. This horse didn't get into the race last time, was farther back at Churchill with a slow pace. I think Giroux from the 2 holes is going to be a little bit more aggressive. There's no speed at all with the 1 Dream Fly. So I think Catman's going to save some ground into the first turn and be a little bit closer than that 8 lengths behind last time and have a chance to kick at the end. King Secret, Catman, I think, have the 2 best pedigrees in this race for the 1 1/8, and I think they're both very, very usable. Zippadoo, the 3, has got a shot in here under for Grand Motion. Heckled, obviously, the Godolphin runner has been second 4 straight times. We'll get bet, but when a horse has been second 4 straight times, you start to look for somebody else, right? And so I'll try to beat Heckled in there. Use that one maybe second in the exactas. But Catmint and King Secret, to me, are the 2 most likely winners of the race.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I have those all right in the mix as well. And finally, the 7th race at Keeneland this afternoon. 1.5 miles on the grass for allowance non-winners of 2 other than types. I couldn't get past 911 Turbo. Sometimes the buyer numbers just stand out. A horse just has an edge. It looks like the Neil Drysdale Southern California import has that edge. So I went there. Foreign relations, a little bit interesting to me. Then also used the 12 microphone in my mix. 1, 6, 12, and 3 for me. What did you see in the 7th?
Well, 911 Turbo's been in the exact 7 straight times, and that's from Maiden Claiming Company back in May of 22. So this horse has really made the ascension and continued to hold the form for Drysdale. The 1.5 miles will be the question as the son of More Than Ready, who's more of a miler, middle distance type with his offspring. But 911 Turbo in the 1 3/8 Del Mar handicap ran well, just came up a little bit short in the end, held on for second in that spot. I'd like a horse named Kitten Mischief in here, Seth. This is a horse by Into Mischief, but out of Kitten's Point. If you remember that Grand Motion trainee, the damn Kitten's Point, she won the Dowager Stakes at 1.5 miles in her final career start right here at Keeneland. She was a really good filly on the grass. The 1.5 mile distance, I think, is going to suit Kitten Mischief well. Has run twice at Keeneland and was a little bit further off the pace than I think she will be today. I think Giroux with the jockey change is important here. He's going to keep this filly closer. He's usually on the turf into the mix with his horses. I think Kitten Mischief, if she can be mid-pack or even first third of the field going down the backstretch, she could be really interesting in this spot. She's run twice at Keeneland, 3rd and 4th. Good efforts both time over this 1.5 mile trip, the most recent attempt in the spring. I like her in this particular spot, and I think Kitten Mischief has a chance to do something really good here at the 1.5 miles. So I like her in 911 Turbo, 3-1, 1-3, and I think we'll get a nice price.
Yeah, I like it because I mentioned the other day, and Jonathan Thomas and Augustin had a win down at Keeneland just the other day. But I've been a big fan of the Augustin runners going back to the Jonathan Shepherd days, and I think Jonathan Thomas has stepped into the role nicely. And when you can get prices on those Augustin runners, they can oftentimes pay off very nicely. Jeremy, before I let you go, I had pulled up the stats again. You are handicapping on the Keeneland website every day, and I was curious your thoughts on the human side of things. Tyler Gaffleone ahead, but slightly. Luis Saez on the comeback after the injury, riding very well. It's 8-7 on the jockey side of things, but on the trainer side of things, a little New York-centric on top. I was kind of surprised when I pulled up the stats today. Todd Pletcher over Chad Brown, Steve Asmussen, Wesley Ward, Ian Wilkes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, the top 4 kind of looks like Saratoga there, doesn't it? I mean, there's not a whole lot of change there. And Todd's got at least 3 major stakes wins that I could think of. He won the Alcibiades at the Breeders' Security, and then up to the mark as the performance of the meet, right, when he ran down Master of the Seas in the Coolmore Turf Mile last Saturday. So Pletcher's having just a fantastic meet. He's not going to run enough horses at this meet to win the title because remember, weeks 3 and 4 with 5-day racing week, the 3rd week, and a 4-day racing week to wrap things up. That's going to become a lot more Kentucky-centric and a lot less staked major players that we've seen like with the Pletcher-type horses. So it'll probably still end up being, Brad Cox and Wesley Ward and Mike Maker to kind of duke it out for the training title when it's all said and done. But right now, you're front heavy with the meet because of All Stars weekend, right? The first week of racing. So many big time New York horses were performing in there, and they ran to their potential. and really ran well. But it has been an excellent meet for Fletcher and Brown already to start. I think Brad Cox today is going to have a really big day. I think he's got horses in 4 mile and 16th races, at least 3 that I know of off the top of my head, maybe 4. Brad Cox wins 31% of the time in mile and 16th races at Keeneland. Just a phenomenal percentage. Remember, it's the short stretch, and we know how these Brad Cox horses kind of re-break at the top of the stretch. That's why he has so much success. They only got to get to the 16th hole finish line, right? They got 110 less yards to work with in the mile and 16th races once they turn for home. So if you get a Brad Cox horse turning for home and they get that little re-break like happens so often, that's why they win so much. I think you're looking at a big day for Brad Cox today with so many of these horses he has in mile and 16th races.
I like that stat. Very good. And that is part of what you can catch on the Keeneland website from Jeremy Plonk every racing day as well. Check that out. Check out Jeremy's Substack as well. Jeremy, always appreciate the conversation. I know you have some other media appointments this morning, so we'll let you go, but always fun to talk to you. Have good luck this afternoon.
All right. Good luck, everybody. Take care.
Appreciate it. Jeremy Plonk, again, horseplayernow.com. It's his Substack page, which is brand new. Check that out. And on the Keeneland website, every Keeneland racing day, he has selections there as well. So check all of that out. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, I'm going to come back and toss out some news and notes, and then we will take another break a little bit later on and get JohnPiassek in here to talk some Laurel for this afternoon, because, again, it's Maryland Million Day, and they are stacked with stakes races down at Laurel on this Saturday afternoon. So fun afternoon ahead. We will continue to talk about it and more right after this. Stay tuned.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back. Some news and notes now. We mentioned it on the handicapping show, but yesterday the news came out. Geez, just unfortunate news. Echo Zulu injured during a workout. She was working out with gunite, and she sustained, clearly a career-ending injury, and kind of hoping that things work out to save her. She will undergo surgery. Steve Asmussen, and looking for his quote, the conduct surgery to save her life and let her be the incredible mama she deserves to be. So we're hoping for the best for Echo Zulu. Again, just Steve Asmussen further quoted, she had a level of ability that is beyond rare. And you just look at her 9 wins in 11 starts. That included the two phenomenal performances up at Saratoga this past summer, the honorable miss and the ballerina, one at 6 furlongs, one at 7, and both with 112 buyer figures. She's just unfortunate. Echo Zulu with the injury yesterday, working out at Santa Anita. And we certainly hope for the best, because it would be great, down the road to see Echo Zulu offspring and see what they might be able to do. Mentioned with Jeremy, the Keeneland meet goes through October 28th. Started last weekend. Still, a couple weeks left. And yeah, it's interesting. Currently, Todd Pletcher atop 14 starts, 4 wins, 3 of those grade ones. And they were also the first couple of days. That included Locked, a nice performance there, up to the mark, as Jeremy said. It was a great start for Todd Pletcher. And as Jeremy said, he's more New York centric. He starts a lot of horses, but does he have the overall firepower to hold off some of these others? Chad Brown, only 6 starters at Keeneland, but he's won with 3 of them. So he sits tied for second with Steve Asmussen, Wesley Ward, and Ian Wilkes, who over the past couple of days has come on nicely. You got to go down a little further. Jeremy mentioned Brad Cox. He's sitting with 2 wins. Mark Cassie with a couple of wins. Dallas Stewart, limited number of starters. He's only started 5, but he's won a couple. Vicky Oliver with 8 starters and a couple of wins. I always say you got to pay a little bit of attention to hers. Mike Maker is the one, 17 starts, only 1 win so far. But as Jeremy said, he'll have plenty of starters over the next couple of weeks. So interesting on the trainer side early on at Keeneland. On the jockey side, this will be fun to watch. Currently, Tyler Gaffleone 1 ahead of Luis Saez, Flavian Prat second. John Velasquez, 18 starters, 5 wins. He's tied for 3rd. Currently, Joel Rosario next. Irad Ortiz in the tied in the 5th position with 3, as is Ricardo Santana. Jose Ortiz with a couple of wins. So it'll be interesting to see because some of these New York names are bouncing back and forth. Tyler Gaffleone based down there, though, and just been riding so well. And again, Luis Saez based down there at this point in the year as well, and riding well since coming back at the beginning of this meet. So the jockey side of things will be fun to watch. Belmont at the Big A, I pulled up those stats as well. That's going to go the Belmont at the Big A meet. I mean, it's going to stay right through at Aqueduct itself, but this named meet ends on October 29th. So still a couple of weeks left in this meet, but currently down in New York, Chad Brown is 6 ahead of Linda Rice. Chad Brown with 19 wins, Linda Rice with 13. And there's 3 tied with 8. Bill Mott, Todd Pletcher, Mike Maker, Christophe Clement has 6, Brad Cox 5, George Weaver 5 as well, as does Rick Dutrow. But Chad Brown 6 ahead of Linda Rice with a couple weeks left. And on the jockey side of things, no surprise, Irad Ortiz, but he's only 1 ahead of Manny Franco, who's having a good meet as well. So Irad at 20, Manny at 19. Then you go down to Jose Ortiz with 16, Kendrick Carmouche with 15, and a couple tied at 11, Javier Castellano. Dylan Davis had a great day. I think he had 4 yesterday. So a nice day yesterday for Dylan Davis. Interesting news coming out of Santa Anita because they changed up from a rainbow jackpot type pick 6. They went to a $1 more standard pick 6 at the start of this current autumn meet. And so far through the first 7 racing days, handle is higher. The $1 pick 6, 1.3 million compared to the same days last year. The rainbow, 1.2 million. They did note that the year-to-year comparison is going to fall apart a little bit because last year on Saturday, October 15th, which would correspond to today on the calendar, last year they had a mandatory payout that drew a couple of $1 million. So that's going to make things a little bit unfair as far as the comparison. But I found it interesting. It just seems like Gulfstream, the rainbow, does very well. And I think Churchill, which pays off a little bit different percentage-wise to the Constellations and whatnot, I think theirs has been doing okay. I think in Maryland it does okay. But otherwise, the jackpot just seems to have fallen out of favor at other venues, and they've gone back. New York, certainly the high-profile one, has gone back to the traditional, albeit at $1. So the similar scenario with Santa Anita, and it was interesting to see the first 7 days that it played out positively for them out there. And again, it's the whole pick six wager over the years has been funny because really going back to the start of it and the traditional $2 pick six was always kind of huge out in Southern California, pretty good in New York. And then other venues, mixed bag, tending to not be, there were some smaller tracks where you could hit the pick six, take down the whole pool. You could have the lone ticket and get $3,000. I mean, they just weren't putting the money in at a lot of the tracks. So it's always been a funny, very venue-centric kind of a wager, and it's turning out that way with the jackpot as well. It still is popular down in Florida, and as I say, a little bit Maryland, a little bit at Churchill. Other venues, though, have tended to go for have tended to go back to their traditional, although some of them, like New York, like now Santa Anita, cutting back to the dollar, which seems to make sense a little bit. So you can put together a little bit of a ticket, maybe at $2. It's hard to compete with the big guys because it's hard to put together too much of it. You can't spread too much at $2. At $1, it can get expensive, but you can play around maybe a little bit more. But as I say, it was interesting to see the results from the first few days at Santa Anita with the change. Mentioned it a couple of days ago during our afternoon show during the week, but for folks who can't tune in weekdays or at work or whatever, some things take priority. Frankie Dettori has canceled his retirement, according to a Dave Grenig article in the Racing Forum. But more importantly, more interestingly, he's going to be riding in the United States this winter, back at Santa Anita. Quoted in the Grenig article, 52 years old, and he was on the Nick Luck podcast Wednesday night, and there's a quote from that in the article. Frankie Dettori, I want to carry on a little bit longer in California, where I had such a lovely winter. He was here last year. The dynamic of my year has changed so much. If I wasn't riding any winners or not riding in the big races, it would have made my decision much easier. But at this point, I'm still feeling good. I got to get it out of my system. So then Grenig went on to say non-committal about how much longer he planned to ride, but he didn't sound as though he was planning to hang up his tack anytime soon. I'm committing to full-time there. I'm not just doing the winter. And the article says perhaps following the Santa Anita meet, Dettori said he would look at riding the spring in Kentucky and perhaps the summer at Saratoga or Del Mar. Love to see him up. That would be a lot of fun to have Frankie Dettori be a regular up here. Now, that said, if he's enamored with Santa Anita in the winter, maybe he, and it notes he and his wife will, go to California for the winter and live in Los Angeles. Maybe that then makes Del Mar a little more attractive as well. We'll see, but it certainly would be a lot of fun. And I've been saying the last few weeks as we've been looking at some of the international venues, big days internationally, you've seen Frankie Dettori riding. And I noted in articles we're noting, hey, it'll be Frankie Dettori's last ride at this venue in this big race. And he continued to ride well, and he was riding on the big days, and he was riding well and winning some of these nice races. And so I don't know whether this is a huge shock, other than the fact that he is 52 years old. The retirement is coming at some point, but I guess if you feel like I'm riding well and you can make a commitment to ride in the nice weather out in Southern California and pick up some nice mounts there and maybe have some nice stakes fun in the United States, bouncing around on horses you get connected to out there. Why not? But as I say, it would be fabulous and a lot of fun to see him up here at Saratoga. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that turns out to be how it all works out this year for Frankie Dettori. But the retirement out. Frankie Dettori back in the saddle for the foreseeable future. Anyway, all right, we'll take a break. When we come back, again, big stakes day down in Maryland. I noted earlier, if you're watching the broadcast this afternoon, check out the paddock commentary, the pregame as well. Our friend Brian Addo up from Gulfstream, Stronach tracks. And so Brian, some of the Gulfstream people in past years have been sent up to be part of the team on the big days up in Laurel. And Brian is in town to cover the Maryland Million, so you can check him out during the day today. But we'll be joined after the break by JohnPiassek, a friend from the Maryland Horse Breeders Association. He'll talk a little bit about some of the stakes coming up this afternoon at Laurel right after this Maryland Millions Days discussion. Stay tuned.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend JohnPiassek from Maryland Horse Breeders Association. We have him on often to talk Maryland racing. We had him on up in Saratoga as well. But what better day to talk Maryland racing than Maryland Millions Day? John, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Great to be here. It is my Breeders' Cup day today, pretty much. It's our day in the sun, and I'm really excited.
Before we get started, I was talking to you off the air, and I will congratulate you on the air as well. It's really fun. There was a couple of weeks back. It was one of those weather days where some of the major tracks canceled, and so we were hustling around and wound up with a harness track in the mix that we don't usually have. And I'm sitting in here doing the afternoon handicapping show, and I said, "Is that John calling the races? I thought I recognized your voice." Went to your Twitter feed, and sure enough, you validated that you were calling that day. Nice job. How often have you done that, call the races?
I've done it probably over the years about 25 different times. I mean, I worked at Freehold in the race office and doing like media stuff about 4 years. I left last summer to come here, but every so often, if they need to fill in on a Saturday, I drive up and I do it, and I'm always happy to do it. And I'm so glad that the Capital OTB audience got to see me that day.
Yeah, it was it was fun. I'm just kind of sitting here doing my notes. Went, "That's John," and then I went to the Twitter and I sent you a text. I said, "Nice job." So, all right, let's shift our attention to the thoroughbreds. Maryland Millions Day. Before we get started, what's your weather look like?
Right now, it's looking a lot better than we thought it was going to. It was kind of drizzly this morning. Right now, it's cloudy but dry. Looking at pretty dry conditions. The rest of the day, main track is currently fast. Grass is good, and I would expect it to stay that way all day long. Perfect.
All right, Maryland Millions, highlighted by the Maryland Millions Classic. Let's start there and kind of work our way backward. I pulled up a replay of the Polynesian at Pimlico back in the middle of September. Double Crown is going to be the easy winner here. Off of that, the morning line favorite in the Classic this afternoon. But I'll tell you what, I like all threes for Ham Smith coming in off some nice tries. I think all threes is interesting. Our Nation on Parade is the winner of this race. The Maryland Million Classic last year doesn't seem to be in fabulous form. He runs fifth in this race we're watching now, the Polynesian. But given the win last year, Our Nation on Parade's a player. Rumjar goes out for Claudio Gonzalez, and at a price that maybe is a little bit of an alternative. But what did you see in the Maryland Millions Classic?
I picked Double Crown on top. I think his form is a little bit blurred. If you take out his grass races, his races where he really didn't belong, like the Charlestown Classic, and if you look at like just his starts against upper level stakes company or upper level allowance horses and lower level stakes company, I mean, lot of his recent races beat these pretty easily. As he saw in the Polynesian, he's got a nice trip, crushed the field going away, ran a huge speed figure that day, beat all three a few starts back on this track, rallied when that day on the percent scale he runs in the 90s pretty steadily, and also thinking this son of Anchor and Holt's Bourbon Courage will get a pace run into. I mean, all threes has a lot of speed. Market Maven from the inside has speed. Our Nation on Parade has speed. So it could be a pretty fast tempo up top. Double Crown has a great late tick. He could set up well for him.
Yeah, certainly off of that last race that we just watched, he looks logical. As I say, though, the Ham Smith runner with Sheldon Russell on board all threes to me is intriguing in the race.
Yeah, I mean, my thing about him, though, is he always sets the pace and he always kind of backs up.
Yeah.
So I get a lot more high-quality pace pressure than he's used to, and I'm not quite sure if he can keep it up. Now, of course, I mean, everybody loves Hammy. It'd be great to see another son of Great Notion win the Classic, but I'm going to have to take a shot against him as a better.
And you make a great point. He does tend to back up a little bit late, and this one also at 1 1/8 longer than he's been going recently, so that may work against that one as well. But we'll see. In the 10th race on the card, it is the Maryland Millions Distaff, 7 furlongs to trip for the fillies and mares. I pulled up a little bit a replay of the Timonium Distaff, and Response Time is going to be the winner here. I will say I really like Fille d'Esprit, the morning line 2-1 favorite, comes out of a win most recently in an optional claimer, won this race last year. Fille d'Esprit does seem to be the one to beat, but I thought Response Time off the win at Timonium was a little bit intriguing. And if I was playing around a little bit, Malibu Beauty also is interesting to me. What are your thoughts on the Distaff?
As far as I'm concerned, this is the best race of the day. Absolutely stacked field. I ended up picking Response Time on top, bred by Country Life Farm and a daughter of the stallion Mosley. As you mentioned, she did really well in the Timonium Distaff, got right back to her old self. I mean, she was in great form on this track earlier this year, won 3 times in 4 starts, being some of the top female sprinters on the ground. Got some time off in the spring, has been slowly rounding back into form, and I thought it ran well that day at Timonium. She beat Malibu Beauty to the punch early on, not an easy thing to do, as Malibu Beauty is one of the fastest horses around here. Kept them all at bay, ran a career top on the Brisnet scale, and should be a tough customer on the lead. That being said, a Fille d'Esprit win would not shock me in the least. Won this race last year, one of 5 stakesmen she had back in 2022. Absolutely oozes back class. Got a race in her first off the layoff last time and did what she had to do. She has such a powerful middle kick. It would not shock me at all if she just inhaled the field at the top of the stretch and won going away.
You mentioned Response Time, bred by Country Life Farm. If you run into Sally Ellen Hurst for Country Life Farm, say hello for me. A couple of summers ago, she sent me some ties that I subsequently wound up wearing on the Sunday morning show with Steve Bick, because Steve is normally making fun of my ties, and she sent me some nice ties. So I always appreciate that. But again, the connection there, just a bonus with Response Time. All right, let's go back. 9th at Laurel. It's the Maryland Millions Nursery, as the name indicates, 2-year-olds going 6 furlongs. Catahoula Moon is the one we're going to watch a replay of. We're going to go back and watch the win at Timonium back in September. Subsequently came back and ran second in an optional claimer at Pimlico. But just with the experience under the belt with this one, I thought Catahoula Moon was interesting. That said, Blame the Tux comes out of a nice win, albeit on the turf at Colonial. Kohlers comes in off a couple of nice efforts. Hasn't gotten a win yet, comes in as a maiden, but the numbers are very good. And Prado Road goes out for high percentage trainer Brittany Russell. This is a fun field of 2-year-olds. What did you see in the nursery?
It's a fun field, both this and the last year of wide open races every year, and this is no exception. I ended up going with Kohler's on top. Really liked his debut, even though he came in second. He chased the pace, stayed on throughout, held on, and finished second. The winner that day, Notice of Action, came back to win the Prince Lucky Stakes at Parks on Pennsylvania Derby Day. This one got involved in a three-way speed duel last time out against Open Maidens. Managed to hold on and finish third, as Blinkers here should once again be tough on the lead. One horse didn't mention, who I also like a bit, is number 11, Full Group, also by Bourbon Courage, really stepped up second time out on opening day of the Laurel Farm Meet. Set the pace, held sway on the front end, won by a length and 3/4, owned a huge figure. He should be tough on the lead as well.
Yeah, it looks like a really fun race. And I'm just looking here with the morning line. The morning line favorite is what, 9-2. Well, I guess the favorite is the AE at 8-5. Call Me Andy. But can you explain on Maryland Million days how the AE list is decided?
So Maryland Million is for Maryland sired horses, not Maryland bred. You can be bred outside of Maryland, but as long as you buy a stallion standing in Maryland that year, you're eligible. If you're Maryland bred but not Maryland sired in the stakes, you can be on the AE list, and you only get in if the field drops below 8 Maryland sired horses.
And I knew there was that whole caveat, so I'm glad you took the moment to explain it, because folks looking at the PPs may not realize in some of the races. All right, 7th race today, Maryland Millions Sprint. 6 furlongs is the trip. I pulled up a replay from last year's Maryland Millions nursery. We're going to watch Johnny Z from Albany get it done. I think he's very interesting in here again today off a victory over Pimlico last time in an off-the-turfer. And there are some local connections because it's named after a local who comes into our clubhouse racebook here occasionally. I see his sister up at the track at Saratoga often as well. So just with the local interest, Johnny Z from Albany is interesting in here. Al Loves Josie, I think, off the buyer figures as a player, and Twisted Ride is in the hunt more often than not, it seems like. So that one's a player going to the lead, also intriguing. What are your thoughts in the sprint?
It would not shock me if Johnny Z from Albany ended up going off as a favorite. The son of Blofeld feels like he's been getting a lot of hype this week. And, it's not undeserving. I mean, he won pretty easily last time out. He had been kind of in and out form all year. Looks like he finally got his legs underneath him. As you saw, he ran huge in the nursery last year. I think he has a lot of untapped potential, and it would not shock me if you put it all together here. One long shot I kind of like is number 2, 7-11, by a Sandbox. He ran huge second off the layoff last time out on Fall Meet opening day. Got a great trip off the pace, drew away very easily, and ran a huge speed figure. That being said, I think he's not totally out of place. He ran some big races going shorter over a winter meet, got some time off, didn't do much first off the bench. That was on grass. I think it was kind of a prep for races down the road. Finally put it all together last time out, and he could get a nice trip here. There's a lot of speed. Johnny from Albany has speed, as does Al Loves Josie. So just find faith from the inside. It could be a hot pace, and it could set up well for 7-11.
I like it. All right, let's take a look finally at the 5th race. And we're skipping around. There are plenty of more stakes on the card today. It is a stakes-laden day down there at Laurel. But we'll take a look at the 5th. It is the Maryland Millions Turf. I pulled up a replay of Street Copper at Colonial winning on the grass back in the beginning of September. Now, this was a claiming race, but boy, did it in fine fashion with a number that matches with this group. Consistently tends to throw numbers like that. Trombetta, always appreciate his runners. So I thought Street Copper was intriguing, but Tappin' Cat looks to be a player. Fletcher comes out of the Penn Mile, so they had some high hopes there, certainly. But that was back in June, so the layup was a little concerning for that one. What were your thoughts in the turf?
In the wide open field here, my top pick is number 8, Crabs and Beer, also by Blofeld, who by the way stands at Moo Farm. Crabs and Beer hasn't yet won this year, but he really hasn't run a bad race in 3 grass starts. He ran huge first off the layoff back in mid-June, came up the inside, just missed with a solid third after a premature move, nest out. Then might have been best in the fine stakes 2 starts ago. He got carried out from the first turn by Wicked Prince, who had some kind of problem, pulled up, walked off. So that was good. Crabs View got taken out a few paths, and he probably lost a few lengths. He got settled back, ended up losing by a neck to the Classy Field Pass. It's not unreasonable to think, had Crabs View not been impeded on the first turn, he could have won that was going away. And then his odds are probably a lot lower than they are here. He gets back on the lawn after a goal try in an off-the-grass race last out. He has good tactical speed, should get a nice trip.
Very good. Crabs and Beer, trained by Kerry Breon, the former assistant to one of my favorite all-time trainers, Jonathan Shepard, having a nice career on her own. And speaking of Crabs and Beer, crabs, of course, Maryland known for the crabs, crab cakes and whatnot. Can you get crab cakes at the track?
I believe so. We got a few specialty stands open up today, and you have to figure all of the casual bettors come in here today. That's going to be their hunch play. So I could knock his odds down a little bit, but he's still got a big chance.
Yeah, and I love crab cakes. And when you get the real
Who
deal,
doesn't? Everybody loves them.
yeah, the big chunks. Oh, yeah, very good. John, appreciate the conversation again. Say hello to our friends down there, Dave Rodman. I'm sure Frank Vespi will be on board. If you run into our man, Brian Nadeau, who's up from Gulfstream doing some handicapping, go over and say hello to him as well. Should be a fun afternoon, Maryland Million. So we wish you and everybody down there a fun afternoon. Good luck, and we'll talk again.
Thank you, Seth. Take care.
Appreciate it. JohnPiassek from the Maryland Horse Breeders Association with a big day down at Laurel, Maryland Millions Day today. Again, the brainchild of ABC sportscaster back in the day, Jim McKay, and it's turned into a really nice afternoon year after year after year, and kind of kicked off what a lot of other states picked up with their state-bred programs and the big days. Down in Louisiana, they do it a few times a year. In New York, we do it a few times. Out in California, they have a few of these kind of days as well. But it all kicked off down in the Mid-Atlantic thanks to Jim McKay. All right, we'll wrap things up. Do want to remind you a couple things, though. First, Fan Appreciation Day today at the Lawrence Street Tavern Easy Bet in Glens Falls. Don't forget, Fan Appreciation Days are a lot of fun. First of all, it gives us our chance to say thank you to you as an OTB patron. But there is food, there are vouchers, there are PPs, there's a contest to win a little extra something. So, again, stop by if you're up in the Glens Falls area this afternoon. Fan Appreciation Day, Lawrence Street Tavern Easy Bet. Also, keep in mind, tomorrow here at the Clubhouse Racebook, there will be Football Sunday. You can come in, watch all the football action, and catch all the racing action as well every Sunday throughout the season. Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. And a week from today, there's going to be an online syndicate that'll be focused on Keeneland. The entries for that will open up tomorrow online at noon. So if you go to Capital OTB, click on the promotions link, there'll be a little banner there that will refer to the Syndicate bankroll. If you'd like to play Syndicate, if you're not familiar, we've done them for a couple of years now, it seems like. They're a lot of fun. You can get in, $25 you get in, and 20 people jump in. That's $500. OTB puts in another $250. So for $25, you get in on a $750 pick ticket. And, you know, if you wind up with a crazy good pick payoff for $25, you get to have the fun of having one of those whale-sized tickets that maybe pays off very nicely. So again, that syndicate play will be a week from today down at Keeneland. But to put your name in to get on the team, that opens tomorrow at capitalotb.com. And again, it'll open up at about noontime. All right. I'm going to wrap it up for Racing Across America on this Sunday, October 14th morning. Nice day ahead. Belmont at the Big A with some stakes action. Keeneland with that QE2 and a nice card today as well. We covered much of that already this morning. Handicapper support and earlier, and of course, Maryland Millions Day as well. Jeremy Plonk mentioned also it is Charlestown Classic Day, or Charlestown West Virginia Breeders Day. I believe is the not Charlestown Classic, West Virginia Breeders Day. And I'm just looking, I'm sure I can pull this up fairly quickly. they have a nice state bred stakes card as well as Jeremy. West Virginia Breeders Classic, the Dash for Cash. Looks like 8 stakes races at Charlestown as well with West Virginia Breeders' Day. So fun day as we march closer and closer to the Breeders' Cup in just a few weeks early on in November. All right, Seth Merrow in here on a Saturday morning racing across America, but I'll be back in about an hour and a half or so, OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. I'm going to take a look at some Belmont at the Big A and some Keeneland during the afternoon, but we'll have plenty more action for you as well, so you can look forward to all of that. But once again, appreciate your tuning in this morning. As always, hopefully we tossed out some interesting and maybe useful information for this afternoon. And speaking of this afternoon, again, back in about an hour and a half or so, OTB Live. See you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.